You know, I never thought my 75th birthday would feel like this. I had spent the whole week planning cooking, cleaning, getting dressed up in my best floral frock. I even put on lipstick, the kind I only wear for church, just to feel a little special. The morning started bright and hopeful, like it always does when I expect something good. My son, Andre, had promised me a vacation for my birthday, real one, he said. A break from the routine, the monotony, a trip to somewhere warm. He even told me to pack my good dresses. It had been years since I'd left the house, except for the pharmacy or church, and I was more than ready. I hadn't felt the warm sand between my toes since my husband passed. When he mentioned booking it on my credit card, I hesitated for only a moment. Andre, my boy, was always my pride. He was my only child, the man I had worked so hard to raise, giving him everything, including sacrifices I rarely spoke of. So, I handed over the card. I trusted him, and I believed in the plans he made. The days leading up to my birthday, I imagined myself on a beach, soaking up the sun. I even bought a new suitcase, a lovely purple one, on sale, packed it slowly, bit by bit, carefully folding each piece of clothing, making sure to pack the things I thought I'd wear on my grand vacation. And yet, when my 75th birthday came around, things didn't feel quite right. Andre had promised me we'd leave by then, but that night before, he called me. He sounded rushed, like he was on the road somewhere. Mama, I'm sorry, but the trip's getting pushed back. A little delay, just some schedule stuff. I could feel my heart sink right then and there. How long? I asked. Not long, he said. Just a few more weeks. He promised we'd still celebrate together. He promised dinner, at least. I told myself that was enough. They were busy. I understood. Life does that. So, I woke up early that morning, hopeful, despite the disappointment, and I began cooking. Fried chicken, yams, macaroni, and sweet potatoes with real vanilla, just the way I used to make them. I set the table for 5, me, Andre, his wife Brianna, their daughter Imani, and maybe Tyrell, the sweet boy from next door, if they brought him a plate. I even put on the good china, the gold-trimmed plates I only ever used on holidays. It was going to be a celebration, I thought. Even if the trip didn't happen, at least we'd have dinner together. By 5 p.m., I was ready. By 6 p.m., I started to feel the flutter of worry in my chest. By 7 p.m., I'd reheated the food twice, and I couldn't stop glancing at the door. But there was no knock, no call. By 9 p.m., I was sitting there, alone. The candles melted halfway down, the food cold, my lipstick smudged. There was no one to share this meal with. The empty plates across from me seemed to mock the love and care I had put into this day. I waited, and waited. I told myself that something must have come up. Maybe their phone died. Maybe the baby had an emergency. Maybe the car broke down. Maybe. I wanted to believe them, but deep down I knew no one was coming. I sat there at that table alone, my hand trembling as I tried to eat, but I couldn't. The food didn't taste the same anymore. So, I pushed the plate away and rested my elbows on the table, staring at the birthday card I bought myself from the dollar store. You're still glowing, it said in pink glitter. I thought it was cute when I saw it. Now, it felt like a cruel joke. I cried, quietly, silently. The kind of crying that only comes when you've been holding it in all day. My shoulders shook as I wiped my face on the tablecloth. The only sound, the quiet hum of the fridge. The house was still, and my heart was breaking with every passing minute. No one called, no one texted, not even a happy birthday, Mama. By 10:30 p.m., I wrapped the pie in foil, and the food I'd slaved over was put away, untouched. I blew out the candles. I changed into my nightgown, feeling the weight of the day settle deep in my bones. The ache in my knees was sharper than usual, but it wasn't just my knees. It was the ache in my heart, the kind that only comes when you feel invisible to the ones you've given everything for. I sat down on the edge of the bed and looked at the purple suitcase by the door. Still packed, still waiting. My hope, like that suitcase, was gathering dust. I lay down and stared at the ceiling fan. The only sound, the slow, steady creak of its blades. I whispered to the quiet room, maybe they forgot. I wanted to believe it. I really did, but deep down, I knew they hadn't forgotten. They just didn't come. The next morning, I woke up to the kind of stillness that felt like a void, a hollow silence. The house was the same, but it wasn't peaceful. It was empty, like a place that had been abandoned but no one had bothered to tell you. I sat on the edge of my bed for a long time, staring at the purple suitcase. Still there, still waiting. I wanted to believe, still, that maybe the trip was delayed. But everything about me felt heavy, slow, as if my body knew something my mind wasn't ready to accept. I went through the motions of my usual morning brushing my teeth, tying my scarf tight, shuffling into the kitchen in my slippers, but everything was different now. The coffee tasted bitter. I didn't drink it. The pie was still in the fridge, but I didn't warm it up. The dishes from last night sat in the sink, still stacked, waiting to be washed. I couldn't bring myself to touch them. I sat down on the couch, wrapped in my old knit shawl, the one Harold gave me before he passed, the one that still smelled faintly like cedar and lavender. Tyrell, my sweet neighbor, always checking in on me, knocked at the door. A knock so soft I could have missed it. He smiled as he walked in, carrying a grocery bag. "Got you that lemon dish soap you mentioned," he said, and I could tell he was trying to cheer me up. He was always so polite. He noticed my phone sitting on the table and asked if I was still having trouble with it. I nodded. He offered to take a look. I didn't expect what happened next. He went through the settings on my phone and paused. "Miss D," he said gently, "did you say your son was planning to take you on a trip for your birthday?" I turned slowly to face him. "Yes," I replied. "He said it was going to be a family vacation." His voice softened, and he turned the phone towards me. On the screen, there it was, Andre and Brianna, smiling, tanned, holding fruity drinks on a beach with a caption that read, "Much needed reset. Son with family." They were on the trip they had promised me, and I wasn't there. I felt the air leave my lungs. They had lied to me. Asterisk. I swallowed, holding back the tears that threatened to spill. My hands trembled as I handed the phone back to Tyrell. I couldn't speak for a moment, but when I did, I said, "They told me it was postponed. They promised we'd reschedule." But I knew they had lied, and I could see it now. The pictures, the proof. They used my money. They used me. Tyrell didn't know what to say. I don't think he ever expected to find me in this kind of pain. I saw the sympathy in his eyes, but there was nothing he could do to make this right. As I sat there, trying to process it, I whispered, "They really left me." And Tyrell, bless his heart, just sat with me. He didn't try to fix it, didn't tell me what to do. He just stayed. His presence, though quiet, was enough to remind me that I wasn't completely alone. That night, after Tyrell left, I sat in my kitchen, staring at the empty chair where Andre used to sit. It didn't matter anymore. I knew I had been the one who had been left out in the cold while they toasted their drinks with my money. I couldn't help but wonder if I had been too blind for too long. Asterisk. The next morning, I sat in silence, thinking about all the years I'd spent quietly sacrificing for my son. The nights I worked extra shifts at the hospital, the countless times I went without, so that he could have what he wanted. And now, here I was alone, with nothing but the echo of promises broken. I thought about calling Andre. I thought about hearing his voice again, asking for forgiveness. But the truth was too clear now. I had given him everything, and he had taken it. All that love, all that sacrifice, had been used against me. I wasn't just his mother anymore. I was his resource, a means to an end, so I didn't call. Instead, I walked to the kitchen and made myself a cup of tea. I sat by the window and watched the world outside move, as if nothing had changed. But something in me had shifted. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just done. A few weeks passed, and everything stayed the same. My son still hadn't called. He sent a text now and then, but it was always about something trivial. The way he spoke to me had changed. He was distant, cold. His tone made it clear that I was no longer a priority. I wasn't surprised. In fact, I had come to expect it, but I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. How could I have been so blind? How could I have let him take advantage of me for so long? I wasn't angry, though. No, anger would be too easy. I was disappointed. One day, Tyrell came over with some bread, as he often did. He asked how I was doing. I told him I was fine, but I wasn't. I wasn't fine at all. He could see it in my eyes, though, and he knew better than to press me. He just sat with me, quietly, like he always did. Sometimes, it was all I needed. Then came the day when I finally had enough. I didn't know what made me do it, but I knew something had to change. I logged into my online bank account, something I hadn't done in months. My son had always handled it, always told me not to worry, but I remembered my password, and with a few clicks, I was in. I didn't want to look. I didn't want to see what was going on with my money, but I had to. The numbers on the screen were like a slap to my face. My balance was lower than I thought it should be. I scrolled down, my heart pounding. There it was. A list of transactions. Jewelry stores, resort charges, electronics, all under my name. The same card he had asked me for emergencies. I felt the blood drain from my face. My son had drained my account without a second thought, without any guilt. I sat there for a long time, staring at the screen. The betrayal hit me like a wave. And in that moment, I knew that I was done. It wasn't long before Andre came back, walking into my kitchen like nothing had changed. He smiled, his usual charming smile, as if nothing had ever happened. He handed me a paper bag, a peace offering. "Hey mama," he said casually, "we got you some cake from that bakery. Thought you'd like it." I didn't even look at the bag at first. I just stared at him. The same son who had used me, the same man who had spent my money, taken my love for granted, and left me alone on my birthday. "Is this what you brought back from Mexico?" I asked quietly, my voice steady, but the anger was there, simmering beneath. His smile faltered for a moment. He laughed it off, but I could see it in his eyes. He was worried. "What do you mean?" he asked, playing dumb. I picked up the phone and showed him the picture Tyrell had shown me earlier, the one of my family in Cancun, posing on the beach in front of a resort. "How do you explain this?" I asked, my voice cold, not letting him escape this time. He didn't flinch, didn't even apologize. "Mama, we didn't think you'd want to travel all that way. You know how tired you get." But I wasn't buying it. "You lied to me," I said quietly. "You told me the trip was postponed, but it wasn't. You lied to me and took my money for your vacation. And now you want more." Andre was no longer the son I once knew. He stood there, his face flushed with guilt, but he didn't speak. He just shrugged. "It's just one birthday, Mama," he muttered. "You've had 74 before." I felt a fire ignite in my chest. "One birthday," I repeated, my voice rising now, shaking with emotion. "It was the first birthday without your father. And I thought, maybe, just maybe, you'd want to spend it with me. Not run from me." He groaned and dropped into a chair, the weight of his guilt finally settling in. But it was too late. It had all come too far. I looked at him, straight into his eyes. "I'm not your bank," I said, the words coming out like a verdict. "I'm your mother, not your wallet." His face twisted, angry, but I didn't move. I didn't flinch. I just stood there, staring at him. And finally, I spoke the truth he needed to hear. "You've already done enough. Don't come back here asking for more." That was it. No more words. No more games. No more lies.